month, as she said. And Kristen, thank you for helping to organize all of this. So the city received a grant from DEP to try a program called Toward Zero Waste. And Kristen really has been the person who's been pushing this and has been living a zero waste life for the past year. But Kristen's background is she's an adjunct professor at Tufts teaching sustainability, and she lived in Sweden for most of her adult life, and we all know the Swedes are famous for their sustainability efforts. But she can tell us a lot about what she's learned over the past year of not having any waste. But in 2006, Newburyport was at about a 28% recycling rate, and then when we went to the single stream program, it went up, but it's only still at 32%. And that's kind of high. We're the third highest in the whole northeast region of Massachusetts.
Does
that
mean
goes
32%
pretty
32% of people, or 32% of the waste?
Of the waste. 32% of the waste that we produce, and that is food, your garbage and your yard waste. And it also includes the schools. So, and we're the third highest, and the two towns that are higher than us are pay-as-you-throw towns. And so their numbers I don't really completely believe, because I think a lot of people just put stuff that should go in the garbage in the recycling. So anyway, we have a long way to go, and organic.
Seat right over there, and we can have one right here.
Organic composting is one thing we can do, and we're going to learn about that mostly tonight. But the city's been trying to do other things as far as recycling goes. And so we have a recycling center that's open the first Saturday of the month, and we take metal. We've tried to take all metal out of the waste stream. We are going to be having a big push for textile recycling. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but in the fall we're going to be launching a textile recycling program, and we're going to be having a recycled fashion show. It's going to be really fun. But people think, oh, when I find that one sock from the laundry and I can't find the other, that it gets thrown away, and it does not. That can be recycled, and they turn them into useful things, padding for carpeting and car seats and all different things. And then we were thinking about some other programs for bulk waste. We've been tracking our bulk waste. We have a lot of carpeting, a lot of mattresses, a lot of furniture, different things like that. So we're trying to find streams for all those things as well. And this program is going to help do that. So the city received this grant from DEP, and Kristen is the project manager for that. So she's going to be the main point of contact. We're very excited about it, and we can't thank her enough. And we hope to learn lots of good things that we can share with the rest of the residents who don't participate in this, and figure out ways that we can reduce our costs as far as solid waste goes. So, without further ado, Kristen.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. Thank you for your interest in this. This is a passion of mine, so I'm very excited to see what we can do here as a community. I am Kristen Wolf. That is my email address. Ideally, you will be emailing me right after this presentation and saying, yes, I want to participate. We will be having a deadline of April 8th to join the program, just so I can get everything organized and get the orders put in. You'll learn more about that as we go on. This email address will show up again later, so don't worry about it, but we'll get started. Thank you. So, first of all, I wanted to tell you what we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit about motivation, a little bit about approaches, and a little bit about the metrics that we're going to use within this program. And the major metric is, again, April 8th, to make sure that if you want to participate that you can, and again is cwolf@comcast.net. That's C as in Kristen, Wolf, as in Waltham without the AM, at comcast.net. Again, you'll see this email address again and again. Next, please. So, how this came about. I don't know if you guys have done any reading or have heard about, but San Francisco, by the year 2030, I believe it is now, they want to be a zero-waste city. They want to have a zero-waste, no trash, no rubbish. Austin said, oh, that's silly. We want to do it by 2020. So there are major cities that are going out and saying, we don't have to have waste. We don't have to worry about this. Hammarby is actually a city, I should say a community in Sweden. It is located just north of Stockholm. Stockholm made a huge bid, a huge play for the Olympics, for the 2004 Olympics, and they were going to use Hammarby as their Olympic village. Thank you. And when they lost the bid, they thought, hey, we still have this opportunity to do something with this community, and they turned it into an environmental city. They did everything from scratch. They really put in some interesting infrastructure, but they are a completely zero waste community. It has been so successful and it works so well that they're creating another one out on what is called the Royal Garden in Stockholm. And they've been finessing their plans, but they've really got a good thing going here, a good blueprint. So then I did some research. I thought, well, these are some major cities that have major resources. So I did some research, and you know what? There are a lot of cities in Sweden that are doing this. Some a lot bigger than ours, some a lot smaller than ours, and many, many, many cities of 17,000 people, our size. So it's not impossible to think about our resources and our community getting to achieve something of the same thing. So this kind of excited me, and on January 1st, 2011, I decided I'm going to do something just to see how it works. So I became a year of zero waste. And I've continued it on through this year too. So from January 1, 2011 until yesterday, this is entirely everything that I have not been able to throw away. Everything else that has been in my home, I have either been able to recycle, find some other use for, find some way of making it not go into the waste stream. Some of the things, I'll ask you to go forward and then go back again for just a moment. So I wanted to share that there is some cheating that happens. The first thing is when I buy chicken, the padding at the bottom of the chicken, that's gross and disgusting. It's also partially made of plastic. There's nothing I have been able to find that I can do with it. So what I have done is I have done some different sourcing. I've done source reduction. So instead of buying my chicken in the styrofoam trays, which I have found a way to recycle, and I'll get to that in a moment, I've found different stores that sell chicken in different ways. So now I go to Bucarelli's and I buy it in plastic bags. Plastic bags aren't that much better for the environment. However, I can find other uses for them. So one of my things is, I've said that if I can't find a way to responsibly get rid of it, the least I can do is at least give it another life. So I have a dog. A lot of things end up going to dog poop and collecting dog poop. So the other thing that I wanted to share is, yes, I can go to Bucarelli's and I can buy the chicken. Now, one could argue, but wait, that's a whole nother stop. You're making another shopping trip. You're driving again. And you know what? I don't have a good argument for that. But it is what it is. Also, when you go to Bucarelli's, it's incredibly more expensive. So you're asking a lot of me. So I've had to kind of find a happy medium. I will only go to Bucarelli's when it's on my way somewhere. And I will buy the Market Basket chicken. What I try to do is I definitely save the styrofoam. I'll get into that in a moment. I use the plastic wrapper as dog poop and to put the disgusting little pad that comes with it in there. The other thing that I have done as far as cheating and destroying my credibility is when in Rome. So if I'm over at a friend's house and they offer a paper napkin and I use it, I probably won't stick it in my pocket to take home. When I go to my mother's and she has different things, yeah, I have tried to not be a burden on other people. If you could go back to the other picture, with the other side, the other arrow, if you go to the there. Thank you. You are a genius. So I wanted to share just really quickly, when you're looking at this picture, these are, this is another kind of source of critique, or this is an issue that I haven't figured out yet, or I should say I have figured out, I'm not sure I'm right. These are lamps. These are ceiling lamps. I had National Grid come in and do all the swapping to use the more energy efficient lamps. And these are they told me that they're the lamps that they take from my house just end up in landfill. And I said, I can't do that. I'm a zero waste person. So I kept them. Now, I found out that Habitat for Humanity has a store called Renovation or something, something.
Restore.
Restore, that's what it is. Thank you very much. In downtown Boston, and they will gladly take these to use in houses. So you have two issues here, though. Okay, I found some place to take them, but number one, I'm not going to make a trip down to Boston. That's too resource intensive as far as actually saving the world. And number two, if they're not energy efficient enough for me, should they really be put in somebody else's home? So I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to be honest and think about all of the things that come up. The other thing I want to bring up is of all of this stuff, I would honestly say about 80% of it I know how to get rid of now. And I hope that by December, I will have all of these different waste streams available for everybody in Newburyport, and I will be able to show a picture of a much smaller amount of garbage, even with 8 more months of collecting everything that I can't use. So the wrappers, all of these different wrappers will go to TerraCycle. We found somebody to do styrofoam recycling. I can't think of anything else in there that I can actually, I do have some questions on laminated paper, but most of these things I've already found some way, and with this grant I will try to implement beyond that. Tonight is only about composting, but composting is the major thing that gets things out of our waste system. So if we could go 2, please. Thank you very much. I would also like to share my lack of virtuosity, and that is I wanted to do this project and only buy things that didn't require more resources. So I should go and buy a bunch of carrots from the market and wash them and chop them and take off the yucky part. I tried that and I didn't eat my carrots. I just never found the time to prepare them, and I found out that I am a creature of convenience, and that is a problem. So I do buy the baby carrots because I will pop those in my mouth all day long and not think twice about it. They take no preparation, and I like that. But I will reuse the bag. So I have that going for me at some level. And what this is something that you put in your dishwasher. It's called Baggy Wash, and it washes plastic bags in your dishwasher. Now, one could argue that that's not very efficient. We're taking up more space in the dishwasher for a plastic bag. Other people will say there are some concerns about heating plastic up and reusing it for different things. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm trying to present all sides of the story. The same thing here with prepared spinach. I tried to buy a batch of spinach. I won't clean it. I figured that out. It will just sit there. I will find every excuse in the book to let it go to waste, unfortunately. So I try to use it for different things. One of the things that I have done is I save the little boxes that they come in, and anytime I have a book club meeting or investment club meeting, I always say, I will bring all of the stuff. I will bring the dishware, because everybody keeps using paper plates, or even worse, styrofoam plates. So I'll carry these things in the lettuce box, the thing that the lettuce comes in, and nobody has to worry about it. The other thing that I wanted to share is from those 2 big boxes, some of the stuff that you'll see in there are straws. I don't know if any of you remember, but about a year ago, there's a little boy up in Vermont, a 9-year-old, who got his whole town to ban straws. They are not recyclable. They stay in the landfill for thousands of years, and we use so many of them. So I went and bought a whole bunch of different kinds of straws. I can't have my smoothie without a straw. That would be wrong. But these are all reusable straws that can be put in the dishwasher. This is a metal one. They come with little brushes that you can clean things out, and then they just stick them in the dishwasher. So a lot of this was source reduction. What can I do? This is a paperless stapler, if anybody has ever seen one of those. You will not find paper napkins in my home or paper towels. I try very hard to work on that. We'll get into the dog poo thing in just a minute. So why do this? It's really silly for me to talk about that too much, because you've just given up an evening of your precious time, so it'd be preaching to the choir, but it's living well by living green. So we won't do that. Why do this? We want to save the world, but we also want to save some money. If we put some of these plans in place, the way that we've calculated it, very loosely, I should say loosely but conservatively, very loosely but very conservatively, we can save upwards of $400,000 in Newburyport's budget in their waste stream if we can divert part of that $1.1 million of the budget that we currently have to use for waste streams. So there's a huge savings that can be made here. This can be something that really benefits the town, not just from an environmental standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint. Next, please. So where should it go? The overall project, the overall grant is to try and get everything out of the waste stream that we possibly can. And we have organics, which we're going to talk about tonight, which is 99.9% composting. We also have something called TerraCycle. TerraCycle is something that we will be starting up at the schools. And I pointed out the chip bags and things like that. TerraCycle collects these things and pays you for them. So if we send 100 chip bags to TerraCycle, they will send us 2 cents per bag, and they will donate it to our schools. So it's something that we can drive through our schools. They have all sorts of different, what they call brigades. They have some for juice boxes. They have some for chip bags, cheese bags.
The juice pouches.
The juice pouches. They have a myriad of things that you can do and send, and they will give us money for it. And so if we can get that started, right there we're taking a lot of packaged goods, a lot of food packages out of the waste stream. Then we have FreeCycle and Craigslist. A lot of people know about them, but you know what? A lot of people don't. And I have seen things on dog walks that get thrown in the garbage that I think, I know somebody could use that. I know that there is no reason that this has to go to the landfill now. It could have some other uses out of it. FreeCycle is something, if you're not familiar with it, it is a community organization on email where you have wanted, received, or offer. And if you have something you want to get rid of, you put offer and you send it out, and people will write back to you and say, hey, I take this. Or if you want something, instead of going out and buying it, see if somebody else would be willing to give it to you if they just have it sitting around in the garage. With Craigslist, you can sell things, but there's also something called Curb Alert. So if you have something you don't want, or you see somebody else who has something that they don't want sitting on the curb, you go into Curb Alert and you give the address and you say, there is a toilet sitting on the curb, and somebody can come and get it. The other two things that I will be working on is finding collections for bulky and hard to place items. So I mentioned styrofoam. Molly mentioned textiles, and we want to do a Souls for Souls collection point at the recycling center. There is so much that we can get out of the waste stream. Like I said, I've been cleaning out my apartment, hoping to move and just get more organized. And in this process, I've not let myself throw one thing away. And again, even with cleaning out everything, that's all the garbage that I've come up with, only because we've been thinking about all these different streams that we could have. If you could do again, please, Sarah, thank you. So, yeah, we talked about all of those, but tonight, sorry that I've taken so long, but we're finally getting to it. We're going to talk about organics. And with organics, the reason we're talking about organics, I would have to tell you, this is from the EPA, but it is by far the most conservative estimate I have ever seen of food scraps. You'll notice here that we already deal with paper, we already deal with glass, we already deal with metals and plastics. All of these things are already taken care of. So really, these two items, food scraps especially, are really the biggest area to concentrate on in our waste stream. They say that food scraps take up 14.1%. We've seen studies, or other reports, I should say, that have that number going anywhere from 20 to 80% of the waste stream, food scraps. Now again, that can vary by community, I'm sure, and different ways of measuring, but there's a gentleman, Jonathan, and I forgot his last name, and he wrote a book called American Wasteland, and he talks a lot about this. And if you can go to the next slide, please, he shares with us that in the U.S., we fill up the Rose Bowl 3 times with food scraps alone every single day. And we are by far the worst nation on the planet to do them. By far the worst nation. And what's so sad about that number too is his estimate is well over 50% of that food is fresh food that could be eaten. There's another place for it. There's some place that can be used. And again, some of the studies, 30 to 80% of the waste stream having food scraps is that constitute that. That's going to landfills and that's going to incinerators that it really doesn't have to. Those are so energy intensive and such a waste of the resource. So, what we're going to talk about now is the how. How should we compost, and what do we want to do as far as this grant? Yes?
Question on that, is it bad for food waste to go to a landfill? Don't most landfills use the production of gas for energy now? And
Not
so,
enough of them, and not only that, but it's inefficient to use the landfill for food when the food can decompose and be reused as a soil nutrient.
So how would it affect the landfill if there were no food waste in it? Would it be okay?
It would be totally fine. Totally fine. The landfill would fill up that much less slowly, and would be that much more functional for that much longer. No, it would not. It's not a positive. It's not a contributor to the process at all. That is definite. And if you'd like, I have lots of EPA studies that I'm sure that I could help you if you need more credible source than me just standing up here. Yes.
The other class would be about using your garbage disposal as opposed to...
The garbage disposal, they also don't want you to use from 3 different standpoints. Number 1, it takes water. Water is a precious resource. So when you're rinsing and when you're running the water for the disposal. Number 2, when the water treatment plants, that overburdens them. And if you ever go down to see our water treatment plants, and Molly talks about this much better than I do, you can see how much food waste are coming up. And that's just more work there. That's a longer process. It's more chemical intensive. It takes longer for everything to be processed. And number 3, most European countries have outlawed disposals for these reasons. It is not an efficient or environmentally positive way of dealing with food scraps. The other thing about it too was when you include food scraps in your water waste stream, you then have the attraction of critters. So that means that when you build your water waste treatment plants, you have additional considerations. If you ban disposals and you know nobody's throwing food down, you don't have to build these extra components. And just think about how much happier we would be if we didn't have to spend as much money on our new waste treatment plant than we do now. So the different ways of composting: off-site, which means curbside pickup. You take it out just like you take your garbage out. You set it on the curb. You come back a couple hours later, it's all gone. Backyard and inside. And then I put down here, because this is not an option yet for our grant or for our project, but this is actually what the EPA recommends, is having municipal infrastructure, having compost, having a municipal compost facility in every town, community, etc. This is the way that they recommend to be the most environmentally sound, to limit the amount of hauling or the miles of hauling, as well as having it treated in the best way, and being able to collect the most amount of material. And we'll get into that in just a moment as well.
What do we have now? Like, do they
right
compost
now
leaves, don't they?
Only leaves.
Only
We take no food at all.
Is it different? Do you have to do different things with leaves? Or couldn't you throw food in the same place?
Actually, I don't know what they're... Oh,
I'm sorry.
oh, okay. Come on in. If you don't mind, we're going to put you in the corner, though. We're running out of space, thankfully. Again, I thank you all for coming out on a Monday evening. The leaves. The leaves are taken to Brickens Farm. Our leaves, our yard waste, are initially taken to the compost facility, and then they're hauled off to Brickens Farm. To do good composting, you need your browns and you need your greens. And they at Brickens Farm, they are a commercial composter, so they do the mixing together. If you do curbside pickup as a part of this project, 2 of the 3 that we have suggested, they also go to Brickens, and they do everything at a commercial level. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry, I'm not sure that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but we do not collect food, nor will we accept food at our local compost at all. So again, this is just the EPA anaerobic digestion. This is an example of a compost facility in a municipality, and this is what is most highly recommended. If that doesn't work, true just composting, just throwing stuff in a heap and turning it at a municipal level, in a centralized is what they recommend. But landfill and incineration is a horrible waste of resources as well as a pollutant to the environment. So they always encourage infrastructure whenever and however possible. Next, please. So this is a really big slide with a really lot of information. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to try and break it down and make it as easy as possible. What I did was I took the 3 different methods that we have available for this grant, for this project. If you want off-site, if you want backyard, or if you want inside. And what I wanted to share with you with this slide is to show you the different ways that it can be accomplished. So curbside. The pros are that you can, for most of the different people who will come and collect it, the haulers, they will take everything. Meaning they will take meats, they will take dairies, they will take fats, they will take every kind of vegetable and fruit. And they'll take a lot of other things too. They'll take your paper, they'll take your tissues, they'll take your paper towels, on and on and on. However, the cons are, it costs money. It costs money just like to have the truck driver come and pick up all of our garbage and to pick up all of our recycling. And it's less environmental because, again, they're hauling these wastes. They're driving trucks that emit and use fuel. And they have to drive all the way down to Bricken's farm to drop these off.
How much is the cost offset by getting it out of the waste stream, right? We pay for
Actually, and
pickup.
that's what this pilot is about, is to show that.
Okay,
And
do you have an idea?
No, we have some ideas. Like I said, if we could do all of these, what I've guesstimated is about $400,000 a year.
But I mean, just compared to what it would cost. So like.
Oh, you're saying like. You know what? Can you wait 2 or 3 slides, because I'll talk about that a little bit as far as the cost of collection. Yes, Nancy.
I was late. Did you already say where Bricken's farm is?
It's in Ipswich.
It's in Ipswich.
It is the nearest commercial composter. There is one up in Portsmouth as well, and he's a hauler and a composter. Mm-hmm. But they're pretty far. I mean, they're not around the corner, unfortunately. Ideally, one of you has a friend who's a farmer in the area, and they'd like to start a commercial composting business, and that would be wonderful. That, again, trying to keep things as close to the community as possible is always best. So, now I'm going to go down to the backyard. There are 3 different ways of, and I'm being very in general here. We have bins, worms, and tumblers. And I'm going to show examples of each of these in a minute. I'm just, again, trying to go through the pros and cons. Bins are the earth machines, the things that you just stick back there. They're super easy to set up. They have no hauling costs, no operating costs. Once you buy it, it's yours. But it doesn't take meats, fats, and you can have a problem with attracting other guests who might like to dine with you. However, we haven't had a lot of problems. This gentleman was asking about rats earlier, and I think we do have some raccoons and squirrels that have gotten into some composting. We've had some issues with that. But if you have the right bin and if you keep an eye on it, Molly, she gives a good talk about how she's put cinder blocks around hers because she has had little critters that come at the bottom and have tried to pull out the plastic at the bottom. Worms or vermicomposting, this is no hauling and it can be done indoors. But again, it's limited on what you can put into it. No meats, dairy, oil, salty food, or spicy food. The spicy food and the salty food will, of course, kill the worms. I'm still interested in it, but that once you get that kind of limit. Then you have the tumbler. The tumbler is the Cadillac of backyard composting. This is beautiful. It takes everything. You don't have to worry about any, and plus it's up on a holder, frame. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about critters either, and it locks down, and you just spin it like this, so you don't have to worry about turning it or anything else. But it's expensive. It's pretty darn expensive. But we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the opportunities in just a moment as well. Indoors, I live in a condo. I have absolutely no yard space whatsoever. I'm on the 3rd and 4th floor of the building right downtown. I'm surrounded by cement. Nothing. I have no option. So bokashi is one way of doing indoor composting. It's a Japanese way. And instead of composting in the traditional anaerobic sense, it ferments your food scraps. You put some these pellets in, and your compost is fermented. However, so no worms, no hauling costs, minimal operating costs. You can buy a fancy schmancy container and then add the bokashi, and there's some that even drain off the water, and on and on and on. You could just do this in a pail. It doesn't require anything. It doesn't smell, no critters, no bugs, nothing like that. However, the bad thing about that is it is an initial investment if you buy their big fancy one, and it's not a complete system, meaning that once the compost is fermented, you still need to either put it into another form of composting outdoors, or you need to dig it into the soil and let it set for a few weeks before it really has the nutrients and the ability to produce, if you will, for it. So it's a great way to get rid of things if you know somebody who has a garden that will let you put it in with their soil. And I realized just today that it's not Nature Hill, it's Nature Mill. And this is the nice, this was my birthday present to myself. Nature Mill is a composter that's an actually electric indoor composter. And I'll show a picture of it in a moment. It's cheap to operate, but it does require electricity. So there is that you could say, why would we spend money on fuel, or why would we use resources to do something that should happen naturally? And it takes nearly everything. There are some big exceptions to this that I'll cover in a moment, but it's a very, very big initial investment, a very, very big initial investment. So, a lot of information there, but let's go on, and some of this will become more.
Will bokashi take everything?
Bokashi will take everything. It will. But again, it's not a complete system. Thank you for asking. So this is just a very brief, non-scientific, very highly researched, but non-weighted comparison of all of the different methods. I'd like you to ignore these two for right now, but curbside hauling, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing here. Curbside hauling, initial startup investment. There's no startup investment. You hire somebody to come pick up your garbage, so that's a good thing. It's a positive. That's an easy. Startup convenience, super easy. Make a phone call. Convenience going on, super easy. You're taking your garbage out anyway. You can take your compost out. They pick it up, super easy. Operating costs. There is a weekly charge or a monthly charge for doing it, so not so great. Environmental score. It's hauling. I mean, they have to drive a truck around, so there is a bad point about that. But the range of items they can take is very good. They can take meats, fats, dairies, etc., and lots of other things as well. So you can kind of get the idea of what I'm trying to do there, is show the positives and negatives. I won't bother going through all of it. I'm happy to send it to you all if you're interested. I put some things here like the plus minuses for the startup investment cost for indoors. If you go with bokashi, it's very cheap. It's a good thing. If you go with the Nature Mill indoor thing, that's a huge investment cost, startup investment cost. So that looks at that. These are both the idea of what it would take to have a municipal infrastructure, which is ultimately what we would like to have. And the startup investment cost is huge, so it's a negative. The startup convenience, huge, it's negative. It's going to take laws, and it's going to take meetings like what's going on in there, I'm sure. But however, the convenience for natural composting, it might not be that convenient, because we're going to have municipal workers go and churn it. And when I say here natural, it just means putting it in a pile, not buying a generator or anaerobic chamber. If we buy a unit, then it's going to be incredibly expensive to start. It's going to be incredibly hard to get it set up and get it installed. However, it's super convenient once we get it going. We just throw it in. Operating costs are going to be minimal. The environmental score is off the charts wonderful, and the range of items is amazing. So that kind of gives a view of that. And again, I'm happy to go through this later, but I don't want to bore you with too much detail. So what I wanted to do now is go through the three things that we are offering, or not, I shouldn't even say offering, what we're encouraging people to think about and encouraging people to become a part of the pilot, so we can give some qualitative and quantitative data as to what composting will do to save the city money as well as be environmentally friendly. The first is composting off-site, or having curb pickup. And the idea here is ideally it would be a municipal facility that we just get it like we do our regular garbage and recycling. And we have 3 offers for Newburyport locally that I can show you here. These are 3 composters, or 3 haulers, I should say. They're not necessarily composters in the local area who is a part of this pilot, would like to participate and would like to have, you know, people participate. Black Earth I'm so excited about them. They're a group out of Gloucester. They work with Bricken's Farm, and they are working with some of our local restaurants. And they would like to offer this service for once a week pickup for $16 a month. And once they get up to enough people, they'd like to bring that down to $10 to $8 a month. But they have to amateurize, they have to make sure that it's worth their trip to come up here. Mm-hmm. So if we got enough people, they're very anxious to work with us, and it seems like a great group of people. Not only that, but they are also investing in some resources. They are taking old semi-truck trailers and putting augers and heaters in them to try and reuse some of these trailers to become compost facilities. And they'd love to have us try something like that here. If we did something like that, and then they were only hauling to our local town, this is a dream. This is not happening. Don't get any ideas. This would be my dream. In any case, so Black Earth, and they only need 1 house to say that they would do it. Eco Movement is up in Portsmouth. They do their own composting. They would like $24 a month, and they need 30 homes in order to justify doing the pilot program down here. Organic Solutions, they're a group out of West Newbury. They're brand new. $15 a month. They need at least 10 households to do this. I bring up these 2 only because I wouldn't necessarily recommend them, but I wanted to share. Bootstrap Composter, they're in Greater Boston. They would love to work with us. They would love to come up here, but their rates are really, really high. If they came once a week, it would be $38 a month. If they came every other week, it would be $24. Their rates are way too high. But part of the reason their rates are really high is because they're really far away. But they also, in Boston, they pick up compost by bicycle. So they really have been working hard at how do we minimize our footprint? How do we make this a really good thing? And they have an excellent pay scale, and they're just really good people trying to make this work. And he said, if we could do something where we could start picking up on bicycle, that would be the way it would happen. But that's not going to happen in Newburyport anytime soon. The other people I bring up is Middle Earth Farm CSA. And the reason I bring them up is because they collect compost from anybody who belongs to them. When you have your food delivered, they'll take the compost from that week and give you a new bucket, and they'll take it back to their farm and use it for their purposes.
Where are they?
They're in Amesbury. So if enough people are interested, one of the things, cwolf@comcast.net, send me your questions and your interests, and I will get more information on things that people are interested in and try and help people group together. So if there are 30 people who definitely want to go with Eco Movement, I will be glad to match you all up with Ryan and let Ryan know. If there are at least 10 people who want to work with Organic Solutions, I will make sure to match you up and get you in touch with the right people, etc., etc. You had a question?
I did. Earlier this year, I actually contacted, is it Arrowhead Farm or what's the one? Yeah, Arrowhead. And I asked them if I could bring my compost to them, and they said no, it's illegal. Absolutely illegal. We can't take it. And I was like, really? It's a toxic waste.
There are some kind of health rules. I don't know anything about that, but that's why we are working only with a commercial composter.
Arrowhead also is very close to the river, and it may be.
Yeah.
I think you need certain certifications from health departments. That's why if we have a local farm here, it's not an overnight process. You have to get certified and make sure that you're going to comply in certain ways. You don't want your neighbors having issues, and so I don't know specifically. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, good question.
Yes, please.
You talk about one of the major negatives of this is the transportation, but transportation is a current problem, but maybe not a future problem, right? Like, what's the status of, if these companies are so environmentally friendly, do they have, you know, electric cars that they charge by solar power or something like that that can get rid of that
There are
problem?
tons of things going on like that. I know that Black Earth, I think their truck runs on biofuel or the reused grease. I mean, they're always thinking in those terms. And like I said, with Black Earth, they would love to install something in our locality so that they're hauling that much less. And it could even be something that they install something that if you're going down in that direction, you could drop things off. However, I will say this. If you think about it from a mathematical standpoint, it's always better to have a hauler come and collect stuff than having a bunch of individuals drive individual cars to go put stuff in one place. So, for the most part, I don't think we're ever going to get away from hauling. It's just how far the haulers have to go.
And Kristen, in any of these, do we get to
Yes, all of them. You get compost back.
compost back?
As a part of subscribing, you can elect to or to not get compost at no additional charge. There are lots of them too that have, for example, I think it's Black Earth. They will, for 25 cents, they will sell you the bag that they would like you to put in the thing, so they can put it in there. But they will also hose down your pail for you. They collect the water that they're using from hosing down the pail, and they have it as a closed system, so they take it back to the compost and they use that water to, nothing goes to waste. They tried very, very hard to close the system as much as possible.
One more question.
Of course.
Um,
You can have as many as you like.
Well, only because I compost at home and I am an organic gardener, so I know that I'm not putting anything that's been treated with chemicals into my compost heap. But
I don't know that I can make that promise
Yeah.
for what comes from
Yeah.
them. I do not know.
Mhm.
You know what, Nancy, could you do me a favor? Could you email me that?
Yeah.
Because I would love to explore that so I can answer it for you and other people.
Yeah.
That would be great. I don't have that kind of answer off the top of my head. I failed! Okay. Yeah, exactly. There's one like that in every audience. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some examples. The one thing that I want to make sure you understand is I had all of these price tags up there that could have scared off anybody. You can do this for absolutely $0. You can throw a whole bunch of food scraps in a pile in your backyard and turn it and make it compost. However, you do need to be worried about meats, fats, dairy, etc., because it will attract critters. But then you could build your own. You could do whatever it takes for you to have it, that it's just, this doesn't have to be a major monetary investment. This is not something that's meant to scare you. I'm trying to show the different ways. This is the unit that we will be working with. Depending on how many people we get involved, I'm looking for some grants. That's why the April 8th date is so important, because at that point I'm going to lock down. This many people want curbside, this many people want this many people want that. And I'm going to work very, very hard about getting grants and getting bulk purchasing to get any of these items at major, major discounts. That's my goal. At least some discount. So this is the unit that a lot of people are currently using here in Newburyport. It's called the Earth Machine, and it appears to work very, very well. This is the vermicomposting, the one that I told you about with worms. It can be indoors or outdoors. And I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. This is why I want to move into a house with a yard, because I will be lining my backyard with these beautiful, 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 they're Swedish too, so there's a special place in my heart for it. But these are 2 chambers. You can see that they have locks. Here, when you have things like this, you have to go in and you have to turn it. Compost needs to be turned and treated. With this, you turn the handle. You could send the kids out to do this. So I'm very excited about this one. But this one costs $180 to $400 depending on the size and everything else. Next, please. So the next one I'd like to talk about is the indoor. This is the unit that I just bought, and it's still pretty cool. There have been some disappointments. Mine is now 48 hours in use, so I don't have a whole lot to tell you except that, interestingly enough, they didn't tell us beforehand, no broccoli, no cauliflower, no kale. Some of these things that are really smelly, they said they will cause really big odors. The other thing is they said limited citrus, because the citrus acids will kill the composting things, the microbes that create the composting. So there's been a little bit of, but so far I wouldn't say it's total buyer's remorse. Like I said, I've been using mine for 48 hours and it looks like it's doing well. The thing that's interesting that I learned about this is of your food matter that you put into this, when it's heated and through the natural process of composting, you lose up to 70% of the matter through evaporation. And every time I open it up to look inside and say, ooh, yeah, there's steam coming up. There's a lot, and I've filled that baby up, and it's compressed at least by half what I've put in.
And then you're left with a liquid?
No, no liquid. It comes down into a tray, and I haven't done that part yet, so I don't have all the answers. And it'll be a couple weeks before I'm ready to do a tray. But you pull this down and you pull out a tray, and you have freshly roasted compost.
Like crumbly, black, or,
If it's like the pictures.
If it's like the pictures.
Right.
Yes, exactly. We'll give a follow-up on this. Sarah's my partner in crime who also bought one at the same time. So,
What happens though, like what if you put in waste the night before? Is there going to be stuff that's not composted yet always?
I don't have that answer yet.
Okay.
They said to do something about when you're gone for a weekend, you should plan your transfer. Did you read that part?
That is my biggest question too, is timing, because there is a button you push to sort of dump everything down into the tray. But yeah, if you've just thrown something in, you're not gonna.
But it says specifically you can keep throwing in. We don't have to. If you want to send cwolf at comcast.net, I will answer that question. Okay, next. This is the bukashi that I talked about, the Japanese system. It's very, very popular in Tokyo, believe it or not. This is the little pellets, the fermenting pellets that cause more of an alcohol reaction than an anaerobic reaction. This is the fancy schmancy thing where you can drain off some of the liquid. This whole set comes, I think, for like $80, but once again, there's nothing that says you can't use an old paint pail and just keep throwing stuff in and throwing in your bukashi. The thing I want to emphasize again though, bukashi is not a complete system in that when you're ready to dump your pail or when it's been all processed, it is not ready for the garden. It still needs to either be mixed with the soil for a couple of weeks or it needs to be put into a vermicomposter or something else to do further breakdown. But it's a way of non-smelling, taking care of it. What I'm tempted to do is for things that I can't compost in my new, well, I should say this, now that I have the new special one, I don't know how much I'd be doing this. I wanted to try this for the stuff, instead of just keeping it in a kitchen pail, put it into this, and then take the whole pail out to the outdoor composter and feel better that A, it'll happen faster, and that there's no smell. We'll see. Vermicomposting the worms can easily be done inside if you don't mind having worms inside. Doesn't bother me, but other people might. But the idea that you have to be careful of salty food and spicy food is something that got me a little worried because I will forget or I won't think about it, I'm sure. So, in summary, we have 3 different ways of composting. We have the curbside collection, we have the backyard, and we have the indoor. The backyard is about $16 a month for the purposes of this pilot. For the backyard, self-built, big fat zero, whatever you put into it. The earth machine, what I'm saying here is $40. These are worst case scenarios. This is the highest amount that these products would cost. Again, if we can get enough of a group together to do this, and if I can show some of the local donating organizations, we're really trying to work hard to get a couple $1,000s that we could break out over a number of people to make this number come down. The earth machine is about 40, the worms is about 100, and the tumbler I put at 400 for the great big one, but I've seen it for as low as 180 for it says it's for a family of 4. The indoor bokashi, to just get the pellets, I think is $12 a bag, or a starter kit of 3 bags for $30. But if you buy the whole kit, the container as well, it's about $80. And then Nature Mill, they have different sizes and different speeds, and it goes anywhere from $200 to $400. Yes.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then the other thing I wanted to say is if other people have other ideas, I've been researching this for about 18 months, so I feel like I've covered the things that are best for our community and our climate. But if you have other ideas, if you know of something, I didn't know about bokashi until 6-7 months ago. I had no idea. So I'm always looking for new things. If anybody knows of anything, yes.
I don't have a new
Oh,
one.
I was all excited.
But I want to know what kind of maintenance the earth machine requires. Or what do you do? I mean, you just put it in there and that's it? Or
So I'll tell the story that Molly tells, and then I'll let Sarah. You don't have the earth machine,
No,
though. You
I-
have the new age.
I do.
You do?
I got rid of it.
Oh, you did you?
Yeah.
So Molly has one, and she has it sitting in the sun, and she has had to put cinder blocks around it to keep critters out of it. But she said that she has had this for 2 or 3 years, and she's never done anything. She has not removed material from it. She just keeps dumping it in, and it just keeps going down. She said it's been at the same height for years.
she's not using compost out of it?
No. So I don't know. Nancy, why did you have to get rid of yours? Too many.
First I had it on the ground, and it's awkward in terms of turning. There's no easy way to turn what's in there. And then I thought, well, maybe if I raise it up, it'll get more air circulation. So we built a stand, out of wood with slats, so it would aerate better. But that was equally difficult because then I'm now trying to turn things that are higher up, harder work. So I ended up getting rid of it, and I inherited an ancient tumbler
Oh,
that is kind of rusting and probably on its last legs. So I've been experimenting with that.
excellent. And so far, so good?
Mixed results, but I also think it's because I don't have it in the sun.
Okay. Well, and if, 90% of our composting will take place between May and October.
Yep.
And in the winter, just nothing. We just don't get warm enough for things to grow. One of the things in the last session that somebody brought up is going out to students at Whittier or someplace and seeing if we can get like oil drums and see if we can get people to build
Yep.
some tumblers. They don't have to be the fancy schmancy insulated lockdown kind, but that concept seems really positive as far as what they will accept, how safe they are from critters, and the ability for ease of use.
One problem I'm having is because it's old and the drum was metal, it's starting to rust.
Is it? Okay.
So, but it's something that can be
Do you know what
fixed.
brand it is?
I actually have the brochure that came with it. Somebody gave it to me and said, I bought this for my father and he doesn't want any part of it, and so he gave it to me. So,
Does it start with a J?
I
Okay, all right. Could you
I'll
email me
email
that?
you. I'll email you.
Anya.
Well, I've been doing composting for a couple of years now, and you keep talking about no odor. I don't know what you're talking about, because it just simply smells.
It does smell?
Mine does, yeah, but it's not a horrible smell occasionally.
It's an earthy smell.
It's an earthy smell, but also I was always told don't put meats and fats because they putrefy.
Right.
And that would add more nasty smell if you're trying to get away from smell.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, all right. So there is smell, right? I mean, there is.
Are you putting meats and fats in?
I'm not,
Oh,
but
No, with a tumbler there won't be smell.
well,
Because it
come to
locks-
my house. There's smell.
You have a
I
tumbler?
bought a tumbler at Beach Plum Farms 2 years ago because I had one that was low to the ground and I'm not 20 anymore. And I said, phooey, I'm getting something I can reach into, or if you angle it right, you can dump it, it'll dump out. It's a slider, it is plastic, but it looks just like that except that it's the one that you showed that green on there. It's great. The dirt that came out of it, I mixed with other dirt that I was composting in a different way in an old garbage bucket with just holes in the bottom, and if you get cut flowers or whatever, you throw them in there.
Right.
right now my backyard, anything old has been tossed back there, and it's, I'll get to it and then I'll make a compost thing out of it. But I guess my concern, it's not really a concern, but you keep people saying that there's no smell, and I'm smelling something. So am I not doing something to it that would change it to not make it smell?
We've got an earth machine that my husband won out at Maudsley State Park at our composting thing. We've had that thing for 10 or 12 years. It's sort of in the shade under a tree. We drilled holes in the top of it so there'd be more ventilation, or so the water would go in. I think I've emptied that thing twice. I mean, it's got a door in the front. I've got beautiful. We just keep throwing stuff in. It just keeps rotting. It doesn't smell.
Do you turn it?
I go out there with a pitchfork once a year and turn it
How
on.
do you turn it?
With a pitchfork, I just.
No, I mean, but, so you lift the whole
Well,
thing up?
no, I don't. I just, I take the cover off and I get the pitchfork and I just move it around and kind of stir it and throw some more water in it. Make sure there's some leaves and stuff in it. We've had no smell. It like compacts down so much. I don't get a whole lot out of it, but we don't put any meat or fat in it. It's magic.
Well, and that's kind of what Molly said. Like I said, she just doesn't touch it, and she's not looking for it to enhance her garden.
No.
But it's a great way to get rid of food, and she just doesn't think about it. So I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Because when things decompose, which is what we're talking about,
Right.
they give off an odor.
Now,
I know.
Niall, we have a friend who lives out by Maudsley in that area, and he has one of the fancy schmancy expensive tumblers, and it positively does not smell. But when you open the door, you get the earthy smell, and it definitely takes meats. It definitely takes fats. Yes.
I just want to say that we have one of those bokashi things in my class, and
In your class?
yeah, and whenever someone opens it, it smells terrible.
Really? Okay, well, good to know. See, we're getting some good feedback here. Are you sure it's bokashi?
Yeah, it's on the label thing for the bag that says bokashi on it.
Oh, okay. What school is this?
The River Valley Charter School.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to ask more about that in a little bit. Okay, interesting. Thank you. Thank you for disabusing us of that notion that it's not smelly. I don't know what to say. I don't mind.
When you walk by my house, you should just come and check it out. Because
Okay.
I'm curious. I don't really care one way or the other because I'm still going to do it.
Right.
And I've been doing it, and it's great. But I'm just curious because I don't know.
Okay. It could be you're not getting enough sun, so it's not happening fast enough.
Okay, that's possible. Okay.
So let's.
That's
I
possible.
might
Okay.
take a little walk.
Okay.
Okay. So in any case, I just wanted to give the cost structure. So next slide, please. Why we're doing this is, like I said, I would love to prove to Newburyport that offering municipal compost is a positive thing to do, not only for the environment, but also for our local budget. And so the idea behind this is that we get a pilot group of people to participate in composting. If you already compost, that's totally great. You can still help us with the data that we need to make this work. What we're trying to do is to get people to say, yes, I will participate. I will weigh my garbage, and I will weigh my garbage before I start composting, and I will report in what I throw out every week. And then I will start composting, and I will weigh my garbage, and I will share what I've been throwing out, and we can show how much, what weight, because that's what we're charged on. We're charged by weight, by
You want
tonnage.
us to weigh what we,
But both what you throw away in the trash and what you are organics, not your recycling. Nothing to do with recycling. Recycling is a separate stream.